Princess Solara stood on the balcony of Letheria's grand palace, her eyes tracing the glowing horizon. The twin moons hung low in the sky, casting silver light over the crystal cities below. The wind carried a soft hum, the song of her planet, a melody that had welcomed generations of her ancestors. But tonight, the familiar comfort felt distant, almost hollow. There was a strange unease in her chest, a feeling she could not explain. For centuries, her family had ruled Letheria with care and wisdom, navigating both politics and the mysteries of the galaxy. But recently, whispers had begun to reach the palace archives, rumors of a pact so old it had almost been forgotten. A pact made not just with other alien civilizations, but with humans, a distant species from a blue planet across the stars. Solara had always been curious about humans. They were strange in appearance, fragile in form compared to Letherians, yet their history and bravery fascinated scholars across the galaxy. She turned back toward the archives, her fingers brushing against the smooth walls lined with holographic records. The archive chamber was vast, filled with rows upon rows of data crystals. Each crystal contained knowledge from Letheria's long history. Today, she sought answers about the mysterious royal pact, something that had been buried in secrecy for generations. Solara activated a holo crystal she had found hidden in a locked chamber. The projection shimmered to life, showing a series of ancient symbols and text. The language was old, one her tutors had only partially taught her, but even fragments made sense. The records told of a treaty between Letheria and a human civilization long before interstellar travel had connected the two species. According to the documents, a human warrior was pledged to protect the royal line in times of great peril. A protector whose arrival would mark a turning point for Letheria. Solara's heart beat faster. Could it be true? Could a human, a stranger from a distant star, be destined to play a role in her life? She shook her head, trying to dismiss the thought. Legends often twisted truth, and ancient pacts were rarely meant to be fulfilled after so many generations. Yet the feeling of anticipation lingered, deep and unyielding. Far away, on a human colony at the edge of known space, Kale tightened the straps on his armor and adjusted the comm device on his chest. He was preparing for a routine patrol. But a sudden message from the Galactic Defense Council had changed everything. His mission was no longer routine. Kale had been noticed for his skill and sharp thinking in recent skirmishes. His reputation as a brilliant strategist and fearless fighter had reached higher authorities. Now, orders came for him to report to Letheria, a planet he had only seen in passing holograms. Kale felt a mix of pride and confusion. Letheria was known as a peaceful planet, rich in culture and technology. Yet his orders hinted at imminent danger. The council emphasized that his presence was crucial, though they did not explain why. Kale had always been cautious but curious. He knew this mission could change the course of his life, though he could not imagine how much. Upon arriving in Letheria, Kale stepped onto the landing platform of the royal spaceport. The city stretched before him in shimmering towers and winding streets, all glowing with the soft light of bioluminescent plants. He could feel the weight of attention, for humans were rare here, and his presence immediately drew stares. He noticed a small group of palace officials approaching, their movements graceful yet commanding. Meanwhile, Princess Solara watched from a distance, observing the newcomer with keen interest. There was something familiar in his posture, the way he moved with confidence and awareness. A part of her could not explain why. But Kale seemed to stand out among the other human visitors she had seen in diplomatic reports. Her curiosity grew stronger, urging her to learn more. Kale was escorted through the palace corridors, every step echoing against the polished floors. The walls displayed murals of Letheria's history, depicting great battles, wise rulers, and monumental discoveries. Yet Kale's mind was occupied with one thought: why him? He had fought many battles, yes. But why had the council chosen him for this mission above all others? The first meeting between Solara and Kale was brief but impactful. She approached him in the council chamber, her presence commanding attention without demanding it. Kale bowed respectfully, a habit ingrained from human etiquette, and noticed the regal aura that surrounded her. "Welcome to Litheria, Kale," Solara said, her voice calm yet strong. "I hope your journey was not too difficult." Kale nodded, trying to mask his unease. "Thank you, Princess Solara. The journey was long, but I am ready to serve however I can." Solara studied him carefully. His eyes held something unusual: focus, determination, and a hint of something she could not place. She felt a strange connection, an unspoken recognition that unsettled her. Was it possible that he was the warrior spoken of in the royal pact? The thought was both thrilling and terrifying. In the following days, Kale underwent briefings on Litheria's current threats. The neighboring star systems were unstable, and a coalition of aggressive alien factions threatened to expand into peaceful territories. Kale's experience in combat strategy was deemed vital, though the specifics remained unclear. Solara kept her distance, observing him as he learned quickly, adapted to new environments, and demonstrated natural leadership. One evening, as the twin moons rose again, Solara returned to the archive chamber. She pored over more documents, following threads of information that led to ancient scrolls and holographic recordings. Each fragment revealed details about the human warrior, his lineage, skills, and duty to the royal family. The more she read, the stronger her certainty grew. Kale was the one. Solara could not ignore the implications. If Kale truly was the pledged warrior, then their fates were intertwined in ways neither of them yet understood. He would protect her not out of obligation or fear, but because of a bond that had existed long before either of them was born. The thought was both comforting and intimidating. Back at the palace, Kale trained with Litherian guards, learning their techniques and blending them with his own human skills. He quickly earned their respect, not just for his prowess, but for his willingness to understand and cooperate. Yet, in quiet moments, he felt a pull toward the princess, a curiosity he could not explain. Something about the palace, the people, and Solara herself stirred a strange resonance deep within him. The first hints of danger arrived subtly. Reports of small skirmishes near the planet's borders, intercepted communications of enemy movements, and unusual energy signatures in the outer sectors hinted at a larger threat. Solara's instincts told her that the timing of Kale's arrival was no coincidence. Perhaps the pact was being fulfilled now, in ways both predictable and unforeseen. One night, as Kale patrolled the palace grounds, he noticed a faint light on the horizon, far beyond the city limits. His instincts screamed caution. Something was approaching, though he could not yet see it. The stars seemed to shimmer differently, as if signaling the coming of change. He made a mental note to alert the princess at dawn. Meanwhile, Solara walked through the palace gardens, her mind restless. She had never been one to believe entirely in destiny, yet the evidence before her was undeniable. The human warrior was here, and with him came the possibility of hope and danger. She felt a mixture of anticipation and unease, knowing that soon their paths would cross in ways neither could anticipate. The first part of this story closes on the twin moons, shining over Litheria, their light casting long shadows over both Solara and Kale. Though separate in space and thought, both felt the invisible pull of destiny, the unseen threads of an ancient pact that now began to weave their lives together. In the coming days, the mysteries of the past and the challenges of the future would collide, setting the stage for a journey that neither Litheria nor the galaxy had ever witnessed before. The secret of the royal pact was no longer buried. Its echo had reached across space and time. And soon, the human warrior and the alien princess would meet in a story written long before either had ever lived. The following morning, the palace was alive with movement. Litherian guards trained in the courtyards, diplomats walked the hallways, and servants carried out their duties with quiet efficiency. Yet amidst the everyday rhythm, Princess Solara's mind was focused entirely on Kale. Kale had already begun to earn the respect of the palace guards. Though human, his movements were precise and deliberate, blending with Litherian martial techniques while maintaining his own style. Observing him from a distance, Solara felt a mixture of curiosity and anticipation. Every step he took, every decision he made, seemed to confirm the threads of the ancient pact she had studied the night before. She decided it was time to speak with him again. Kale had been assigned to study the planet's defensive strategies, reviewing maps and star charts in preparation for the threats approaching from the outer sectors. Solara found him in the strategy chamber, a large room filled with glowing holograms of the Letherian systems. "Kale," she said softly, drawing his attention. "Have you had a chance to review the defensive plans?" Kale looked up, his expression respectful but curious. "Yes, Princess Solara. I've noticed a few areas that could be reinforced, and there are patterns in enemy movement that suggest they might attempt an ambush along the northern borders." Solara studied him. "You speak as if you already know the enemy's thoughts." Kale shook his head. "Not exactly. But years of experience teach you to recognize patterns, to anticipate actions before they happen. I can't say for certain, but preparation gives us a better chance." Solara nodded slowly. There was a calm confidence about him that she could not ignore. She realized that the human warrior was not just skilled in battle. He understood strategy and foresight in ways many of her own people did not. Perhaps this was why the ancient pact had singled him out, weaving destiny in ways the past rulers had predicted. The day passed with a mixture of planning and observation. Kael learned more about Letherian technology and defenses. While Solara studied his abilities and temperament, they spoke occasionally, exchanging thoughts on tactics, leadership, and the challenges of defending a planet. Their conversations were cautious, polite, and professional. Yet an unspoken connection began to form. Later, Solara invited Kael to walk with her in the palace gardens. The gardens were vast, filled with plants that glowed faintly under the twin moons, their colors shifting in mesmerizing patterns. It was a peaceful place, but Solara knew the calm could be deceptive. The galaxy outside their walls was restless. "The archives you discovered yesterday," Kael began cautiously. "Did you find anything about me there?" Solara paused, choosing her words carefully. "There are stories, fragments of a pact. They speak of a human warrior, pledged to protect the royal line in times of great peril. I believe you may be that warrior." Kael blinked, surprised but composed. "I'm honored, Princess. But I'm only human. I've trained, yes. And I've fought. But I've never been destined for anything beyond my own choices." Solara smiled faintly. "Destiny often chooses more than one path. Perhaps the pact was meant to guide you here, to prepare you for challenges neither of us can yet see." Kael nodded, his gaze drifting to the glowing horizon. "Then I will do whatever is necessary. Not out of obligation, but because it is the right thing to do." Solara felt a deep respect for him. There was courage in his words, but also humility, a combination rare in leaders or warriors. She realized that the bond spoken of in the pact was not just about protection, it was about trust, understanding, and shared purpose. Their conversation was interrupted by an alert from the palace defense system. Sensors had detected unusual movement along the northern borders, confirming Kael's earlier suspicions. Solara and Kael quickly moved to the command center, joining the chief strategist and senior guards. Holographic displays projected enemy positions. Ships approaching the planet from multiple directions. Kael analyzed the situation swiftly. "They are testing our defenses. Small skirmishes first, to measure response and tactics. They will strike in larger numbers if we show weakness." Solara nodded. "What do you suggest?" Kael outlined a plan, combining Letherian technology with human ingenuity. Defensive shields would be reinforced along vulnerable points, while mobile units would be stationed for rapid response. He proposed tactics that relied on agility, misdirection, and strategic positioning rather than sheer strength. The Letherian guards listened closely, adapting quickly to his suggestions. Solara watched, impressed by how naturally Kael inspired cooperation without demanding authority. His approach relied on respect and understanding, not fear or tradition. As the sun dipped below the horizon, the first signs of conflict appeared. Small ships from the outer coalition approached, testing the planet's defenses. Kale coordinated the response, guiding Letherian pilots and ground units with precision. The skirmishes were brief but intense, each side measuring the other's capabilities. Kale's predictions proved accurate. The enemy retreated after minimal engagement, but not without leaving evidence of a larger, more organized threat. After the initial skirmish, Solara and Kale met in the strategy chamber once more. "They are stronger than we expected," Solara said, concern in her voice. "And they are organized. We must prepare for a larger confrontation," Kale nodded. "We need to anticipate their moves, to think several steps ahead. I will need full access to Letherian tactical archives, and your cooperation in coordinating all units." Solara placed a hand on his shoulder. "You have my full support, Kale. Whatever the future holds, we face it together." For the first time, Kyle felt the weight of the Pact in a way that went beyond duty. He was not just a soldier. He was part of something much greater. A story that had begun centuries before he was born. He realized that protecting Solara and her people was not just about strategy or skill, it was about courage, integrity, and understanding. In the following days, Kale trained with elite Letherian units, combining human tactics with Letherian technology. Solara observed closely, learning not just from his skills but from his mindset. He approached every challenge with calm focus, thinking several steps ahead while remaining flexible. His presence inspired the guards, creating unity and determination throughout the palace forces. One evening, as Kale reviewed tactical maps in solitude, Solara approached him quietly. "I wanted to thank you," she said softly, "for your dedication, your insight, and for being here." Kale looked up, surprised by the personal tone. "I am here because it is needed. But, thank you, Princess. It means more than you may realize." There was a pause, a quiet moment of understanding between them. Neither spoke of destiny or the ancient pact, yet both felt the invisible threads that connected them. Their bond was growing, not through words alone, but through shared purpose and mutual respect. The calm of that evening was shattered by another alert. Enemy forces had advanced further than expected, using stealth technology to evade initial scans. Kale and Solara moved immediately to coordinate defenses, working seamlessly together. The palace halls buzzed with activity as Letherian units mobilized, guided by Kale's strategic foresight and Solara's authority. As the night deepened, the first real battle began. Ships streaked across the skies, energy beams cutting through darkness, and ground units clashed in carefully calculated engagements. Kale led mobile squads, directing them with precision, while Solara oversaw the overall operation, ensuring that every unit acted in harmony. By dawn, the enemy forces had been repelled, though not without cost. Damage to infrastructure and morale was evident. But Letheria had survived the initial strike. Solara and Kale stood together on the palace balcony, watching the first light of morning wash over the city. "You did well," Solara said, her voice filled with genuine admiration. "You turned uncertainty into strength, and doubt into confidence." Kale shook his head. "It was not just me. Your people are capable, brave, and intelligent. I only guided, coordinated, and observed. The real strength comes from your people, Princess." Solara smiled, a sense of pride swelling in her chest. She realized that Kale's presence was more than a fulfillment of an ancient pact. He was a catalyst, a bridge between human ingenuity and Letherian tradition, showing what could be achieved when two worlds worked together. As the palace slowly recovered from the battle, Solara returned to the archives. The documents she had studied before now felt alive, no longer just records of the past but a guide for the present and future. The pact had come to light, and with Kale here, the promise of unity, protection, and hope was no longer just a legend. Far above Letheria, the galaxy continued its quiet rotation, stars shining like distant promises. Yet within those stars, threads of destiny pulled Kale and Solara closer together. They did not yet understand all the challenges that awaited them, but they knew they would face them side by side. The human warrior and the alien princess, bound by a pact centuries old, had begun their journey together, a journey that would shape the fate of Letheria and perhaps the galaxy itself. The days after the first skirmish were tense but purposeful. Letheria had survived the initial attack, yet the threat from the alien coalition lingered like a shadow on the horizon. Princess Solara spent her time in the palace archives, cross-referencing ancient texts and tactical data, while KL worked alongside Letherian strategists, refining defenses and preparing for the next encounter. KL could feel it, the enemy was testing them, learning their strengths and weaknesses. Each encounter revealed patterns, hints of larger plans, and the need for careful anticipation. He spent hours analyzing movements, creating simulations, and training units for rapid response. The Letherians, though technologically advanced, found Kale's approach different. He emphasized adaptability, thinking ahead, and learning from mistakes rather than relying solely on tradition. Slowly, the palace forces began to mirror his strategic thinking, blending human flexibility with Letherian precision. One evening, Kale discovered a hidden chamber beneath the archives. Its entrance had been concealed for centuries, marked only by symbols few recognized. With Solara at his side, he carefully activated the access sequence. The door slid open, revealing a room filled with holographic projections, ancient artifacts, and documents detailing the royal pact in full. Solara gasped as she stepped inside. This is the complete record of the pact," she whispered. "I never imagined it would still exist." Kale studied the projections. Images of Letherian rulers, human warriors, and battles long past flickered in the air. "It confirms what we suspected," he said. "I was chosen not by chance, but because of this bond. It's not just about protection, it's about guidance, unity, and shared destiny." Solara nodded, absorbing the revelation. "You are not here as a servant or soldier alone. You are part of the lineage, in a way. The Pact chose you to stand with me, to defend Letheria in its most crucial moments." Kale felt a mixture of awe and responsibility. The weight of history pressed upon him, yet it also inspired determination. "Then we must honor it," he said, "not just in battle, but in every decision we make. Letheria's future depends on it." Their study was interrupted by an urgent alert. Enemy ships were advancing rapidly, larger and more organized than before. KL and Solara rushed to the command center, where advisors and generals waited. The room buzzed with tension, the holographic displays showing a fleet converging on the northern defenses. KL assessed the situation quickly. "They've learned from the previous skirmish. Their attacks will be coordinated this time. We need to anticipate their moves and respond with precision. Split forces will draw them into traps, but we must keep the palace secure at all costs." Solara's mind raced. She trusted Kale's judgment completely, yet a part of her feared the scale of the threat. "We will hold them," she said firmly, masking the worry in her voice. "We cannot allow them to breach the palace. Not now, not ever." As the battle began, KL directed Letherian squads with careful coordination. Ships weaved through space, dodging energy blasts and counterattacking with precise strikes. Ground units engaged intruders who had managed to land on the outskirts, using a combination of Letherian technology and Kale's tactical guidance. Amid the chaos, Kale and Solara moved through the command center, observing, coordinating, and ensuring that every decision was executed flawlessly. They began to understand one another's instincts. Solara, with her deep knowledge of Letherian culture and strategy, Kale, with his ability to see patterns and anticipate enemy actions. Together, they formed a partnership that no single individual could match. During a critical moment, a group of enemy ships broke through the initial defense perimeter. Kale calculated the trajectory, predicting their next move. "Divert the secondary shield to Sector 5, he ordered. "Deploy the intercept units now. I'll guide the attack manually." Solara watched as Kale's plan unfolded. His intuition and skill turned what could have been disaster into a calculated victory. The enemy ships were neutralized, their momentum broken, and the palace defenses remained intact. After the battle, Solara and Kale returned to the hidden chamber beneath the archives. The events of the day weighed heavily on them, but the revelations of the Pact gave purpose to their actions. "You've proven yourself," Solara said quietly. "Not just in strategy, but in leadership. I can see why the Pact brought you here. You belong, Kale." Kale felt a deep sense of respect and loyalty. "I do belong here, Princess. Not because of the Pact alone, but because I've chosen to stand with you, to protect Litheria and your people. Together, we can face whatever comes." Solara smiled, a mixture of relief and pride in her eyes. "Then we are ready. Ready to face the challenges ahead, and ready to shape the future together." In the following days, KL worked closely with Solara to strengthen defenses, train units, and develop strategies that combined human ingenuity with Litherian technology. The palace buzzed with energy and determination. The people inspired by the presence of the human warrior and the leadership of the princess. The hidden chamber beneath the archives became a place of learning and planning. Kale studied the history of the Litherian military, learning from past victories and failures, while Solara learned from Kale's tactical insights. Together, they discovered ways to integrate their strengths, preparing for the inevitable return of the alien coalition. One evening, Kale stood in the palace gardens, looking at the twin moons reflected in the water of a serene fountain. Solara approached quietly, standing beside him. "Do you ever wonder why the Pact existed?" she asked. "Why our ancestors thought a human warrior would be necessary?" Kale considered her question. Perhaps it was because they understood the value of diversity. Strength is not just in numbers or technology, but in the combination of different skills, perspectives, and courage. Humans and Litherians together, we are stronger than either alone. Solara nodded thoughtfully. "I hope we can honor that vision. I hope we can prove that the Pact was not just a relic of the past, but a guide for the future." Their moment of reflection was interrupted by another alert. Enemy scouts had been detected near the outer perimeter. Kale and Solara moved immediately to the command center, prepared for another confrontation. As they observed the approaching threat, Kale realized something crucial. The enemy had begun to anticipate their tactics, adapting quickly to previous engagements. This was no longer a simple skirmish, it was a test, a battle of wits and strategy. He shared his insights with Solara, who quickly implemented adjustments across the palace forces. The battle that followed was intense. Enemy ships moved with precision, their formations challenging the palace defenses. Kale coordinated rapid responses, directing units to intercept, evade, and counterattack. Solara's leadership ensured that morale remained high, and that every decision aligned with their overall strategy. Through the night, they worked together seamlessly, their combined skills turning the tide of battle. By morning, the enemy had been forced to retreat, though their threat was far from eliminated. The cost of victory was evident. But the palace forces had proven their resilience, and Kale's presence had made a decisive difference. In the aftermath, Solara and Kale returned once more to the hidden chamber. The full record of the Pact lay before them, a reminder that their journey was part of something larger than themselves. "You've changed everything," Solara said softly. "The Pact was always meant to protect Litheria, but you've given it life again. You've given hope." Kale felt the weight of her words. "I only did what was necessary. The true strength lies in your people, in their courage and determination. I'm just one part of it. Under the people." Solara reached out, placing a hand on his arm. "No. You are more than one part. You are the bridge between past and future, human and Litherian, strategy and action. Without you, we would not have survived these battles." Kale looked at her, understanding the depth of their connection. The Pact had brought him here. Yes, but it was their choices, their collaboration, and their trust in one another that would shape the destiny of Litheria. As the twin moons rose again over the palace, Solara and Kale stood together, watching the stars and feeling the pull of fate. They had faced their first major challenges, uncovered the secrets of the past, and forged a bond that could withstand any trial. The alien coalition was not finished, and greater threats loomed on the horizon. But for the first time, Solara and Kael knew that they were ready not just as a princess and a warrior, but as partners in a story written long before either had been born. The Pact had come to life, and with it, the promise of hope, courage, and unity for Lytheria and its people. The days leading up to the final confrontation were tense and demanding. Lytheria's forces had recovered from the previous battles, yet the alien coalition remained a looming threat. Intelligence reports indicated that the enemy had gathered a massive fleet, far larger and more organized than before. Princess Solara and Kael worked tirelessly, coordinating defenses, training units, and preparing the planet for the inevitable attack. Kael's presence had become central to Lytheria's strategy. He moved among the troops, offering guidance, encouragement, and practical insights. His human perspective, combined with Lytherian technology and discipline, created a level of efficiency and preparedness that few could match. The soldiers respected him, not just for his skill in battle, but for his dedication and fairness. Solara, too, demonstrated remarkable leadership. She inspired her people with courage, wisdom, and empathy. Her presence reminded them of the stakes, not just the survival of their planet, but the survival of their culture and history. She and Kael often strategized late into the night, studying star maps and tactical projections. Preparing for every possible scenario, their partnership had grown stronger, built on trust, respect, and a shared sense of destiny. The eve before the battle, Solara visited Kael in the training halls. He was practicing maneuvers with a small group of Lytherian soldiers, refining their formations and improving their response times. She watched silently for a moment, admiring his focus. "You've done more than I imagined," she said softly. "You've strengthened our defenses, trained our soldiers, and given us hope." Kael paused, lowering his stance. "I could not have done it alone, Princess. Your leadership, your knowledge, and your trust have made it possible. Together, we are stronger than any enemy." Solara nodded, feeling the truth in his words. "Tomorrow will be difficult, but I know we are ready. Whatever comes, we will face it together." As dawn approached, the enemy fleet appeared on the horizon, a dark shadow against the brightening sky. The planet trembled as their ships descended, their weapons charging and energy shields glowing. Lytheria's defenses activated immediately. A coordinated dance of shields, lasers, and rapid response units. Kael stood beside Solara on the palace balcony, scanning the battlefield. "They are more organized than before," he noted. "But they are predictable. We can anticipate their moves if we stay focused." Solara nodded, her eyes determined. "Then we do not falter. Lytheria will stand." The battle began with an intensity that shook the planet. Enemy ships moved in complex formations, launching coordinated strikes on Lytherian positions. Kael directed defensive units with precision, predicting attacks before they happened. Lytherian pilots responded quickly, their ships weaving through enemy fire, while ground units engaged intruders who had managed to breach planetary defenses. Solara remained at the command center, overseeing the operation and issuing orders with clarity and authority. Her calm presence reassured the troops, instilling confidence even as chaos unfolded around them. She and Kael moved seamlessly as a team, anticipating each other's decisions and reinforcing every action with strategic support. During a critical moment, a group of enemy ships broke through the outer shield. Kael calculated the trajectory instantly. Divert all secondary defenses to intercept. Deploy mobile units to flank from the east and west. I will guide the main strike personally. Solara nodded. "I trust you. Do what is necessary." Kael led the counterattack, moving through space with skill and agility. His maneuvers were precise, anticipating enemy reactions and exploiting weaknesses in their formation. Lytherian pilots followed his lead, adapting human strategies to their advanced technology. The enemy was caught off guard, their momentum broken, and their losses mounting. On the ground, Solara coordinated with defense units to ensure that palace structures remained secure. She reinforced shields, redirected troops, and personally oversaw critical operations. Her combination of wisdom, decisiveness, and courage inspired everyone around her. As the battle raged, Kale detected the enemy commander's flagship, directing attacks from the rear of the fleet. "Princess," he said urgently, "if we take out their command ship, the rest of the fleet will collapse. I need a strike team to target it directly." Solara did not hesitate. "You have my support. Lead the strike, Kale. We will hold the rest in place." Kale assembled an elite team of Letherian and human fighters. They launched toward the enemy flagship, weaving through intense fire and dodging attacks with remarkable precision. Kale's leadership guided every move, turning what seemed like chaos into coordinated efficiency. As they reached the flagship, Kale devised a daring plan. They would disable the ship's shields while minimizing casualties, then neutralize the commander and communication systems. The strike required absolute trust and perfect timing, but Kale had trained his team well. With careful coordination, the plan succeeded. The flagship was disabled, its commander captured, and the enemy fleet lost cohesion. Enemy forces began to retreat, their morale shattered, and Letheria's defenses held firm. The battle ended with Lytheria victorious, though not without damage. Cities bore marks of the conflict, and soldiers bore the weight of exhaustion. Yet the people celebrated their survival, inspired by the bravery and leadership of Princess Solara and Kale. After the battle, Solara and Kale returned to the palace balcony. The twin moons rose once more, casting silver light over the recovering city. They looked out at the horizon, knowing the galaxy still held dangers, but also possibilities. "You have changed everything," Solara said quietly. "The Pact was always meant to protect Letheria, but you've given it life again. You've given hope." Kale shook his head. "It is not just me. The people of Letheria, and the courage of every soldier. This victory belongs to all of us. I only helped guide it." Solara reached out, placing her hand on his. "No, Kale. You are more than a guide. You are a bridge between past and future, human and Letherian, strategy and action. Without you, we would not have survived these battles." Kale met her gaze, understanding the depth of their connection. The Pact had brought him here, but it was their choices, their trust, and their collaboration that had shaped the destiny of Letheria. In the following weeks, Letheria rebuilt and strengthened its defenses. Kale continued to train and advise, integrating human tactics with Letherian technology. Solara implemented reforms to secure alliances across nearby systems, ensuring that the planet would be prepared for any future threat. The hidden chamber beneath the archives became a symbol of their partnership, a place where history guided the present, and where strategy and courage intertwined. Together, Solara and Kale studied the lessons of the past, ensuring that Letheria's future would be guided by wisdom, collaboration, and bravery. One evening, as the twin moons reflected in the palace fountains, Solara and Kale walked through the gardens, feeling the calm after the storm. "Do you ever wonder what might have happened if the pact had never been fulfilled?" Solara asked. Kale considered her question. "Perhaps Letheria would have faced greater challenges. But destiny has a way of finding its path. The pact brought me here, yes, but our choices, our courage, and our trust in one another, that is what truly mattered." Solara smiled, a sense of pride and hope in her eyes. "Then, we have honored the pact. Not just by surviving, but by building something stronger. Something that will last for generations." Viri 4. Kale nodded. "Yes. We have created a legacy, together." As the stars shone above Letheria, the planet felt alive with possibility. The bond between human and Letherian, warrior and princess, past and future, had created a new path, one defined by courage, wisdom, and unity. The galaxy would remember their story, not as a tale of conflict alone, but as a testament to the strength of trust, collaboration, and the enduring power of hope. The secret royal pact, once hidden in the shadows of history, had come to light. Its promise fulfilled, its lessons applied, and its legacy secured. Lytheria looked toward a future where humans and Lytherians could stand together, ready to face any challenge the universe might bring. And Princess Solara, standing beside Kael, knew that as long as they faced the future together, nothing could break the bond that had been forged across generations, across stars, and across destinies.